Update on a Henry County homicide over the weekend. The sheriff's office now naming Joseph Lockett as a suspect in the deadly shooting of Rhonda Lockett.
Now, Joseph is her estranged husband. Deputies say they were called out by her 17-year-old son to a home on Garrett Road in Ridgeway for a welfare check Saturday and confirmed she was dead.
Rhonda Hairston's family tells me she was a devoted mother and sister, a woman they say was taken from them far too soon.
I don't even for real know what to feel. Hurt, broke, mad, anger. It's a lot.
It was just after noon on a quiet Saturday in Ridgeway, Virginia, when a trembling teenage boy dialed 911. His voice cracked as he told the dispatcher, "My mom needs help." Moments later, deputies arrived at a modest brick home on Garrett Road where silence had replaced laughter. Inside the back bedroom, they found 39-year-old Rhonda Hairston Lockett lifeless. A single gunshot. No signs of forced entry. No struggle. Just the devastating reality that someone she once loved had turned her home into a crime scene. And the most chilling part, the man police were looking for, the one now accused of pulling the trigger, was her husband. If you're new here, welcome to True Crime Watch HD, where we dive into real stories that reveal the human side of tragedy, resilience, and justice. Make sure to subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and share your thoughts below, because this story is one that needs to be heard. They say every small town holds a secret. Ridgeway, Virginia, was the kind of place where people still waved from their porches, where life felt safe and slow. But on October 18, 2025, that illusion shattered. Deputies rushed to the Lockett residence after the 17-year-old son of Rhonda called for help. What they discovered that afternoon would haunt Henry County for years. Rhonda was known as the heart of her community, a woman who balanced faith, family, and endless compassion. She was the type of mother who worked double shifts to make sure her two sons, Omar and Xavier, never missed a meal or a moment of joy. She was warm, funny, and grounded. To her coworkers at Drake Extrusion Inc., she was that upbeat woman who danced during breaks and checked in on everyone else's bad day before her own. But behind those smiles, something darker was growing, a tension Rhonda hid with quiet strength. Born in Martinsville, Virginia, on April 3, 1986, Rhonda was raised in a tight-knit family rooted in faith and hard work. Sundays were for Antioch Christian Church, where she sang in the choir with a voice that could fill a room. She lost her father in 2022 and an older brother before that, but she kept her family stitched together through every heartbreak. To everyone around her, it looked like she had finally found her peace when she married Joseph Chad Lockett in April 2021. The ceremony was small, intimate, filled with laughter, hope, and a belief that love conquers all. They honeymooned in Las Vegas, smiling in every photo, dreaming of a shared future. But as time passed, that bright beginning began to dim. At first, the changes were subtle. Friends noticed that Rhonda laughed a little less and posted fewer pictures online. She brushed off questions with short answers. "Oh, just busy." But those close to her saw what she didn't say. Control had replaced care. Jealousy had replaced affection. Joseph's moods grew unpredictable. Small disagreements turned into days of silence or sharp words that cut deep. And like so many in her position, Rhonda tried to hold it together for her family, her children, her faith. She wanted to believe that patience could fix what was broken. But as months turned into years, the quiet strain became impossible to ignore. By October 2025, Rhonda had reached a decision that would define everything that followed. She was done. She wanted her freedom back. She had told her loved ones she was leaving Joseph for good. And if you've ever known someone in that situation, you know, leaving isn't easy. It's brave, terrifying, and often dangerous. Statistics show that the moment a victim decides to leave is when they're most at risk. Rhonda was no exception. Her brother, Casey, would later call that decision the most courageous thing she ever did. She'd begun making plans for a fresh start, telling family she was ready to focus on her sons and finally live without fear. There was even a spark of joy returning to her voice when she spoke about the future, but Joseph wasn't ready to let go. In the days leading up to the tragedy, Rhonda's family recalled strange messages, his attempts to win her back, alternating between guilt, pleading, and anger. Then, that Saturday, it all came to an end. Just after noon, Rhonda's teenage son came home and found the unimaginable. His mother wasn't moving. Her favorite candle still burned faintly on the dresser. There were no signs of a break-in, no fight, just the kind of stillness that tells you everything without a word. When deputies arrived, the evidence spoke clearly. The shot had been fired at close range. Whoever did it, Rhonda had trusted enough to let inside. Within hours, investigators identified their suspect, Joseph Chad Lockett, her estranged husband from nearby Figsborough, the man she had once promised forever. News of the murder spread fast. Social media filled with disbelief and grief. Rhonda's brother Casey posted a message that broke hearts across Virginia. "My damn heart is crushed and broken over and over again. My little sister was pure love. Thank you for always having my back. Justice will be served one way or another." It wasn't just grief. It was rage, confusion, and the unbearable weight of knowing that love had turned fatal. As word spread, the Henry County Sheriff's Office issued an alert. Joseph Lockett was on the run and considered armed and dangerous. Neighbors locked their doors, afraid of what else he might do. Authorities worked through the night tracing calls, checking footage and following leads. The community rallied around Rhonda's family, dropping flowers and notes outside her home. She wasn't just another name in a headline, she was a mother, a sister, a friend, and a light extinguished too soon. But what drove Joseph to this breaking point? What happened in those final moments between them? And how did investigators finally bring him into custody? I want to hear from you. What do you think drives someone to destroy the very person they once claimed to love? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you believe stories like Rhonda's deserve to be told, don't forget to hit that like button. It helps us reach more people and keep her memory alive. When news broke that Joseph Lockett was on the run, Ridgeway went from quiet mourning to fearful anticipation. For 2 long days, every creak on a porch and every car passing by made hearts race. Police urged the community to stay alert. Joseph was armed, dangerous, and desperate. Detectives from the Henry County Sheriff's Office worked around the clock. They followed phone pings, surveillance footage, and traffic camera hits. The case had turned into a manhunt, one fueled by grief and outrage. Locals couldn't believe that the same man who once smiled beside Rhonda at church events was now being hunted for her murder. And while the public saw a suspect on the run, behind the scenes investigators were piecing together something deeper, a pattern of control, isolation, and emotional manipulation that had shadowed Rhonda's marriage for years. It started as these stories often do, with charm. Joseph was attentive, funny, and confident. He made Rhonda feel seen at a time when she was rebuilding her life. But over time, that confidence hardened into something else, possession. Friends later recalled subtle changes. He wanted to know who she texted, where she went when she got home. If she didn't answer right away, the calls would pile up. And Rhonda, like so many others in her position, tried to keep the peace. She avoided arguments. She focused on her sons. She told herself it was temporary, but love shouldn't require survival instincts, and deep down she knew that. By early October 2025, she had begun confiding in her sister, Desania, and her brother, Casey, that she was planning to leave. She wanted a life where she could breathe again, where laughter wasn't followed by tension. Casey would later call it her moment of freedom. But Joseph saw it as betrayal. The night before her death, neighbors remembered hearing faint arguing but thought nothing of it. It was the kind of sound small-town residents learn to ignore, assuming couples just need space. No one imagined it would end like this. At 12:15 p.m. the next day, Rhonda's teenage son walked into the home to find the unimaginable. His mother, his world, was gone. Detectives quickly determined there were no signs of forced entry, meaning Rhonda had likely let Joseph inside willingly, or he still had a key. The single gunshot wound told them this wasn't random. It was personal. Within hours, the sheriff's office named Joseph Chad Lockett as their prime suspect and issued a first-degree murder warrant. The public alert went out across Virginia. Joseph was armed, dangerous, and likely on foot or staying somewhere nearby. Meanwhile, online, Rhonda's story was spreading fast. Photos of her bright smile and choir performances filled Facebook and Instagram feeds. Family and friends poured out their hearts in posts that turned into a digital memorial. Her brother's words stood out, raw, unfiltered, and full of pain. "My heart is crushed and broken over and over again. My little sister was pure love. Justice will be served one way or another." That post alone reached thousands, sparking an outpouring of support and outrage. People who had never met Rhonda felt her story deeply, because it echoed a pattern too many recognize but too few talk about. 2 days later, on October 20, 2025, at approximately 5:45 p.m., police got the break they needed. A tip led them to a house on Niblet Drive in Martinsville, less than 30 minutes from where Rhonda was killed. When deputies surrounded the home, Joseph refused to come out. The standoff was tense but brief. Surrounded by armed officers and knowing there was nowhere left to run, he finally surrendered. There was no dramatic chase, no violent end, just a quiet moment of surrender that felt hauntingly anticlimactic. For Rhonda's family, it wasn't closure, it was confirmation. The man who'd once held her hand at the altar was now in handcuffs for taking her life. After the arrest, Sheriff Wayne Davis commended the investigative team, saying their persistence brought swift justice to a family in pain. Joseph was charged with first-degree murder, use of a firearm in the commission of a felony, and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. That last charge revealed something chilling. He wasn't even supposed to have a gun. Rhonda's brother, Casey, spoke publicly for the first time a few days later. His voice cracked, but his message was clear. She was on a mission. She was working, studying to be a nurse, raising her boys. She was doing everything right, and her life got cut short by a miserable coward. That pain rippled across the small community. At Drake Extrusion, Inc., Rhonda's co-workers turned her workstation into a memorial covered in flowers, notes, and pictures. Some wrote about her kindness. Others simply wrote, "We miss you." A few days later, friends and family gathered for Rhonda's memorial service. The church overflowed with people, classmates, neighbors, even strangers moved by her story. Her choir sang her favorite hymns, and her mother, Linda, sat quietly, clutching her granddaughter's hand. At the end of the service, Casey posted a prayer that showed how grief had transformed into faith. "Heavenly Father, wrap us in your loving arms as we grieve the loss of my sister. Teach us to keep moving forward with faith, honoring her memory through love, compassion, and purpose." That prayer captured what everyone was feeling, that Rhonda's story couldn't just end with tragedy. It had to mean something. Investigators would later confirm what many suspected. There was no sign of robbery, no forced entry, and no one else involved. The evidence pointed clearly to Joseph. The firearm recovered was linked directly to him. It was, without doubt, an act driven by control and rage, a desperate man's final attempt to maintain power over someone who had chosen peace. And yet, even in the middle of that darkness, something powerful began to take shape. Rhonda's story was starting conversations about warning signs, about control, about the courage it takes to leave. When Joseph Lockett finally walked into the Henry County Courthouse in handcuffs, the weight of the room was thick with silence. Every click of a camera, every whisper in the hallway carried the same unspoken question: why? Why would a man who once promised love turn into the person who ended the life of the woman who gave him everything? Prosecutors charged Joseph with first-degree murder, use of a firearm in the commission of a felony, and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. He appeared expressionless, no apology, no visible remorse. For Rhonda's family, that emptiness only deepened the pain. It wasn't just about justice anymore. It was about understanding how love could morph into something so dangerous. In the weeks following his arrest, the investigation revealed what Rhonda's loved ones had long suspected. Jealousy and control were at the core of it all. Joseph couldn't handle losing the sense of power he believed he had over her. Detectives uncovered text messages and phone records showing that he had been trying to reconcile with her, and when she refused, his frustration grew into obsession. The sheriff later confirmed that Rhonda died from a single close-range gunshot wound. There were no defensive injuries, no chaos, just one devastating act that silenced a woman who had finally found the courage to leave. Authorities found the weapon, a gun Joseph was never legally allowed to possess, traced directly back to him. It was all the evidence they needed. For Rhonda's family, that confirmation didn't bring relief. It brought finality. Her brother Casey said it best. "It wasn't just my sister who died that day. It was the heart of our family." At home, reminders of Rhonda were everywhere. Her favorite coffee mug still sat by the sink. Her work badge still hung on the wall. Her two sons, Omar and Xavian, struggled to navigate life without the woman who had been their constant. Friends described her as sunshine in human form. Her laughter had been the soundtrack of her family's world. Now it was gone. But what made her story resonate far beyond Virginia was what it represented. Rhonda's death wasn't an isolated case. It was part of a larger, heartbreaking pattern. Across the country, stories like hers repeat every day. Relationships that begin with affection and end in violence. According to domestic violence experts, the moment a person decides to leave an abusive or controlling partner is statistically the most dangerous time of their life. Rhonda's courage to leave became her final act of strength, and her story became a wake-up call for many. In Ridgeway, the community came together in ways few expected. Churches held vigils, domestic violence organizations began hosting awareness events, and neighbors who barely spoke before now checked in on each other. Rhonda's co-workers at Drake Extrusion launched a scholarship fund in her name for women pursuing nursing, fulfilling the dream she never got to realize. At one memorial, a friend said, "Rhonda's story can't just be something we cry over. It has to be something that changes us." That's exactly what it became. A reason for others to speak up, to seek help, to leave sooner, to listen closer. Her brother Casey's social media posts, once filled with grief, began to carry messages of healing. He wrote, "I still hear her laughter. I still see her strength. If you're in something that feels wrong, get out while you can. Don't wait for the right time, because it might never come." Those words, simple and raw, reached thousands. They carried Rhonda's voice forward in a way that felt bigger than justice. It felt like purpose. As the case moved through court proceedings, Joseph remained in custody awaiting trial. The charges ensured he would face a long sentence if convicted, but for Rhonda's family, the legal process felt painfully slow. Each hearing reopened wounds they were still trying to close. Still, they showed up, every time, determined to make sure her story wasn't forgotten or reduced to a case number. Behind the legal updates, there was a deeper story unfolding, one of resilience. Rhonda's sons were surrounded by the love of their extended family. Her mother, Linda, found strength in faith, often saying, "God has her now, and that gives me peace." Even the sheriff's department, hardened by years of crime scenes, admitted that this case stuck with them. It wasn't just the tragedy, it was how loved she was. Investigators described her as a woman who radiated kindness, and her loss left a mark on everyone who worked the case. But perhaps the most haunting element of all is the message it leaves behind. This wasn't a story about weakness, It was a story about courage. Rhonda did everything people are told to do. She worked, she raised her kids, she leaned on faith, and when love became unsafe, she tried to walk away. And that's what makes her story matter. It shows how dangerous control disguised as affection can be. Her family now uses her name to raise awareness about domestic violence, helping others recognize early warning signs. They want her life to inspire change, not just sympathy. If you're watching this right now and you, or someone you love, feel trapped, unheard, or afraid, please take this as a sign. There's help, there's hope, and there's life beyond fear. On October 26, 2025, hundreds gathered for Rhonda's final farewell. As the choir sang her favorite hymn, "I Love the Lord," sunlight poured through the stained glass. Some said it felt like she was there, smiling the way she always did. At the end of the service, pink and white balloons filled the sky, carrying written prayers for peace and justice. Casey looked up and whispered, "She's free now." Rhonda's story reminds us that love should never cost your life, that leaving is not weakness, and that silence is never safety. She was more than a victim. She was a mother, a sister, a friend, and a light that continues to shine through every person who speaks her name. If Rhonda's story touched you, share it. Comment her name below. Let her family know the world remembers her. And if you want to see more real stories that deserve to be heard, hit the like button and subscribe to True Crime Watch HD. We'll continue to tell the stories that matter, the ones that reveal not just the darkness of what happened, but the light of those who lived through it. Until next time, stay safe, stay aware, and take care of each other.